Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are watching this podcast from. I am Ranjan Dhar, co-founder of Nibble Foods. We are manufacturer of healthy snacks made out of roasted nuts and seeds called Anaklavya mixture based out of Pune, India. So our vision and mission is to empower all and especially generation next with sustainable snacking options and healthy snacking options so that everyone stays healthy and fit. So today I have the pleasure and honor and also the privilege of having Inés Rindoni. So she is a spiritual healer, a master in breathwork, osteopathy, and a craniosacral therapist. She also specializes in quantum Ayurvedic and integrative medicine, incorporating the mind, body, spirit, and lifestyle. So, with all her skills, specializations, and knowledge, she has co founded Healiness, an organization helping and inspiring individuals to embrace their innate healing abilities and lead fulfilling lives. Welcome, Ina. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for a brief introduction. It's always hard to summarize everything in few words. Thank you very much for having me.
Right. Thanks, Ina. So, Ina, with all these skills and specializations that you have mastered over the years, so help us understand your work, your background, your core expertise in a bit more detail to us.
My work started generations ago, which I realized earlier in my life. I'd say my first practice I opened 2.5 decades ago. And it started with approaching the physical body and its sense to reactivate itself. The engineering component of the inner body has a lot to do with the setup that we have in this physical world, which is where I found my first quarter of my life so far in engineering sector, understanding software and hardware, which is exactly who we are, just not in so much of a colder form. The sense of figuring out the pieces, giving the body its due, has a lot to do with the energy movement. And I'm not opposed to being called energy healer, but I had a hard time understanding what energy actually is. The cellular memory that we carry from generations has a lot to do with the information that's already there that we don't have any saying in. So my research over the years and the hands-on experience have really taught me the hard way how to learn every day and really understand the components of the cellular vibration, but giving it a language, because just like a child who is innocent and very pure, children and babies are closest to their origin, their form, where they're not as programmed here in this life because they bring everything from the past. Now, most of the time, we have dysfunctions because of the generational trauma and everything else that physically passed on to the child, which we're all children of this world. My mission and my work, we'll say work because we're in a physical realm, has a lot to do with figuring out what our purpose is, what doesn't work, but what works for us in this life so that we can create a balance or a lifestyle that everybody thrives, happiness, really, and freedom, so that we can thrive to our best potential and pick away the pieces that don't belong and transform them, not getting rid of them, but transform them into energy that works for us, because it's still part of us. So it's not about detoxification. When people talk about how do I become a better version of myself, well, what is your why? What is the version of yourself that you see now? And many cannot answer that. I wasn't able to answer that a long time ago, but I felt, because when I was a child, my grandparents taught me hands-on healing and just transfer this knowledge. And I had to go backwards, because usually in this world we learn theory and then you go out and you practice and you figure out what your niche is. So I've been really privileged to learn, and I learn every day. And with Healiness, we have created a pool I would say, a safe place where we're putting programs together. I still have my vision, my part, my history, my forward, but it has a lot to do with the life choices that now consciously, once we get to a certain point, we have a choice to make. So the beauty of it is that it brings excitement. It
Right.
is the excitement, it is that emotional connection and component that everybody thrives, but we're missing words, we're missing the dancing part. Everybody gets to the floor, but nobody can dance, nobody can perform because dancing is so simple.
Mm.
When we grew up, we danced. Not many people sing, dance, or open up the other part of the brain where they can just be creative. So the big why. We need to figure out the big why today. And
Mm.
I hope that I can simplify so that people can ask questions or at least articulate
Mm.
what they would like from this life.
Right. Right. Yeah, so I mean, you spoke about the generational trauma or the problems that people face, right? So,
Yes.
I mean, tell us more about how, I mean, what, I mean, types of methods you use to, I mean, heal people or to address those issues in the first place, right? As you said, people can't even articulate sometimes, right?
Yes. So generational or intergenerational trauma. Trauma, I don't find it's negative or positive.
Mm.
It's when we have the heaven and hell, good or bad, happiness or sadness.
Mm.
We need to learn how to tap into duality.
Right.
Intentions and intuition back in the day, when we look at tribes, when we look at really history,
Mm.
what some are really making their life choice to delete so
Mm.
that we don't have history to fall back onto, so that we don't have that tangent something to hold on to because we're being programmed to not think about the abstract, not address our emotions. The shadows from the forgotten past are not always negative. When we stand up, everybody has a shadow. It
Mm.
is part of you. What I use, a lot of it is really hands-on, a lot of it is intuition.
Mm.
And when I, some say pray, meditate, tap into the source, however you want to call it, it
Mm.
comes from within, from me, starting the cleansing every morning from the night, whatever I dream, because when we dream, we're travelers. We
Mm.
move into the past, we move into the back, we're in the present. A lot is going on. But a lot of it needs to be sorted so that we can take these messages from the past and the future and use, for example, quantum healing, which is one of my tools, where we can tap into both, but we can also look at the physical self. Just because you're deficient in iron doesn't mean that you're deficient in iron. It could be delivery of the iron, it could be the kidneys, it could be even the liver, it
Mm.
could be your circulation, lymphatic system, the heart. Everything starts from the heart. When the heart is pure, we have this vortex that just modifies and cleanses all the different belts of our existence. So you can call it meridians, chakras, whatever it is. Um, the component of the energy flow, it's combined with the hands-on, it's combined with the channeling or the intuition, it's combined with osteopathic therapy because osteo is bone.
Mm.
We are built from bones.
Right.
Every nutrition, every mineral goes to the bones. Craniosacral therapy, the rhythm of our brain, lymphatic system of the brain and the body, and then creating programs where they can be tailored to the person's lifestyle or people or couple or corporations, where they don't have to add additional means to their schedule. They need to start from the basics from themselves, figuring out how to tap into that inner peace. How do we master the first tapping into the source, the first peaceful communication?
Okay.
A lot of us are missing the peaceful communication. So I have different ways of Ayurvedic medicine, herbs, food, minerals. It's not about the vitamins, it's about the minerals, delivery of the minerals.
Mm.
These are the flow of anything that's in our external and internal environment so that it can flow.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, just to take an example of a very basic example, right? So today in this fast-paced, stressful world, right? People are always on their gadgets. They're always on the go, right? And they don't even understand as to how much stress or how much of a discomfort it is causing them until it comes to a point where I mean they have to seek help, right? So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how would you I mean help those kind of people making small adjustments in the day-to-day life through your work?
So we go back to science. Electromagnetic field has been part of the earth going back. We can speak science or we can speak religion, we can speak whatever we want, the tribal.
Mm.
Electromagnetic field the earth creates is human resonance.
Okay.
When we're not in sync with it, we don't heal. We're not grounded. Okay. The difference between electromagnetic field of the earth and the devices that we have in our hands, it's too big of a difference.
Mm.
We're tapping into 5G, 6G, we're tapping into multiple devices. It's too much for ourselves to recover to vibrate on their own. So when we talk about any cleansing, cellular cleansing, it's not enough just to say, oh, I'm going to be off my cell phone for 5 minutes or 2 hours or my laptop or tapping into internet boosters in the house, tapping into external towers, cell phone towers,
Mm.
traveling, driving. When we drive, we have a cell phone on us, most people. We're tapping from, let's say, a 10-kilometer span. We can map out how many cell phone towers we tap into. All this is going through our cells.
Mm.
When the cells are not happy, what happens? They cluster together.
Mm.
So I love your question because people don't realize that it's not so much about what you have in your hands. It's about enabling your body and cleansing it, sending it to the initial state so that we can shake off anything that's stuck together and reorganize ourselves and the blood flow so that we can, again, go back to the zero, scan, be in the present, and then figure out what it is that we want. Just like animals.
Right.
When there's a prey, right, what do they do after? They shake it off and they're just running and they're trying to reconnect with the earth to shake off all this fear and any attachment. That's dancing.
Right.
So if we go into any ancient healing practices, they don't call it healing. It's dancing, it's vibrational, it's movement. We don't have enough movement. And then we add on physical activities, we add on the mind power, the brain, the stagnation, overthinking, brain fog. There's just too much going on there. We're not aware by Friday, by Wednesday, by Tuesday, it's already a lot. And then you add family, you add children, you add your coworkers at work. Traditionally, we all programmed to what? Do 9 to 5. That's the idea today, to work for somebody else and to follow. There are many few leaders today. And when you try to lead, you stand out. When children try to enable any ideas, what happens to them? Most of the time, they get pushed down and follow the program or you get sent to the principal's office. It's no different with us. It's just universe keeps sending us to the principal's office because we end up with diseases and slowdowns that are really not necessary if you have your schedule and if you're aware of all these little tiny changes that you can do in the morning.
Right. Right. And I mean, if you go back to basic physics also, I mean, the electrons and protons, they dance around the nucleus, right? It's
Thank you.
yeah. So it's very basic that you said, yeah, and that makes a
Yes,
lot of sense. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So, I mean, I understand your work specializes into a lot of, I mean, this breath work, osteopathy, and craniosacral therapy, right? But help us understand. I mean, today, I mean, like I said, I mean, I just took an example of people having a stressful environment with their gadgets, but it is the same with the food also, right? They're eating, right? It's all on the go, fast food, no time, right? So how does this also play an important part in your healing process?
Well, I love how we connected because of your engagement in your lifestyle and your changes, which we can discuss today or some other time because I'd love to maybe interview you on your podcast.
Sure.
The delivery of the nutrition has a lot to do with your nervous system again, regulating it. So we're constantly, if we're in sympathetic or parasympathetic, what happens? It's a nervous system. If we don't allow delivery to the center of your mean, where you can replicate, because remember, we are designed to replicate or destroy. Our cells will either replicate with a new memory or they destroy themselves and they'll go in the lymphatic system and the muscles, lactic acid, whatever it is. The importance of the food is always the gut health. What happens when we get stressed? Oh, I can't eat. I don't want to eat. What happens when you don't sleep? You either overeat or you don't eat, right? What happens when in between we're snacking all the time? Gut health, it's constantly hungry. Maybe people have bacteria, parasites, whatever it is, but it always comes down to gut health. With breath work or any other vibrational, again, walking, exchanging ions, right? Speaking, singing, activating throat chakra, activating. Why do so many people have issues with thyroid today? Why do so many men have increased estrogen? Plastic, chemicals, chemical imbalances, women too. But women are more in tune because we're more vocal, most women. Men are more, by the time we find out something, it's already too late or we have a big problem because when we go back, women were the spirit, the intuition, the sense where men came home, they closed the door, there's no more hunting, you're home. But who went out to gather the food? Who was always in fight and flight mode? A sympathetic nervous system. Nervous system where it comes to rest and digest, that's the women. That's the femininity. But a lot of it is connected to the softness of the trust. We lost the trust and ability in ourselves. And when we go back to the era of, hippies, they try to show this because they were lacking the words. What do? They use stimulants, they use different, drugs, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it plant medicine, and there's other ones to activate, to dance, to be free. But what did they have at this position? It was too big of a gap of fitting this mold. You have to find balance.
Right.
When you do breath work, when you do, you submerge yourself in certain, you tap into first thing in the morning, you elevate yourself. So even if you drop here, you started up here. So your sense of every sense that you have, so the sense of every sense that you have is awakened before you even exit your own space in the morning.
Right.
So the peace inside and the foods, and as we call it, food nutritional component can come in, digest, and then we can look at what are you missing? What are these here, the lighter foods? What should you eat here? What should you eat there? And we supplement with herbs. We need herbs because herbs are grounding. That's why Ayurvedic medicine, India, even going back to Egypt, because I've done a lot of training and education in sacred geometry, love physics. That's my past, and that's my present. Love certain shapes that you can have around in your house. Wear on you, but it will constantly correct the sharpness of the frequency that's constantly entering our bodies. We need to enable that exit as well.
Right. Right. So yeah, just to take that example forward, to add to your point also. So in India, through Ayurvedic practices, it's always recommended that you don't eat after sunset, right? So that you have that time where your food digests properly and your gut heals for the next day, right? And it cleanses your body also in some way. And a clean body is always, it always gives the rises to a clean mind, right?
Clean body, clean mind, body to mind approach. Beautifully put.
Right.
Beautifully put. I'll just add quickly, it's an extension to your answer, but each organ has an hour in the 24-hour cycle when it performs its duty. So when we miss that hour, so let's say liver, if it misses that hour, it has to wait till the next day, the 24 hours later to be activated again. So what happens? All the functions of the liver, they don't take place, right? So that's just the mechanical portion of our inner engineering that we know exists, but nobody pays attention. And then you add lack of sleep or too much sleep, depression. What happens with depression? I'm so tired. I just want to sleep. You're working, but you're not really creating anything.
Right.
What happens when you're anxious? The same thing, just the opposite.
Mm.
All the emotional components, mental components, physical components have to be connected with the spiritual realm. Now,
Right.
this is not religion. This is energy. This is your grounding. This is just who you are. And it's really hard to do that when you live in a city.
Mm.
It's hard to do that when you live in an environment inside where you don't have peace, where there's constant bombarding of mental challenges. And 90% of them are not even yours.
Mm.
They're not even ours. We come pre-programmed. We come then here, even going to the gas stations, there's certain colors. You go to the malls, there's certain colors. You
Right.
give ingredients, the same product here in Europe. In Europe, the ingredient list is this small. Here is this small, and half of this is banned in Europe.
Mm.
Why? We're still humans. Why is it not banned here?
Mm.
There's a huge component that we need to learn, and just being mindful and just being open and just listening, because we learn to listen and we learn to move. And
Mm.
that's, I think, where we're missing with our future generations and children, which will be one of the huge topics in the future on our podcast, because we have to reconnect. We have forgotten our history.
Right.
So
Right.
we're catching up. So how do we teach them what we're catching up on? We really, really have to come back to our origin.
Right. Right. And I mean, people also, I mean, again, going back to the fast-paced world, people forget to breathe, right? Which is the most critical part of life, right?
It is.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, I mean, we'll obviously go deep down into these topics in our later podcasts. But just to, I mean, have a holistic understanding of, so what is this? I mean, breathing. I mean, and how do we breathe so that we ensure that enough oxygen, I mean, goes into our body and it also purifies our blood and mind, right?
Yes. So breathing comes to building the resistance to carbon dioxide
Mm.
in our body. We all have carbon dioxide, and what happens when the cells move, when they vibrate, they want to be free, and they can't because perhaps there's a scar, there's lack of movement, the shoulder is sore, the neck is sore. The neck is very crucial component of our body, because there's the brain, there's the head, but there's the communication. But we have vertebrae, and each vertebrae is connected to an organ.
Mm.
So if we're blocked at C1, for example, liver has issues retrieving and getting information.
Mm.
So when we breathe, depending on if we breathe through the nose or the mouth, it really comes down to the ratio of how much oxygen we're bringing in.
Okay.
So, for example, we'll do a very simple breathing technique. So I'll have you inhale through your nose and
Mm.
then exhale through your nose and just count till 4. Very simple, one of the techniques that I'll just cut in half. So
Sure.
inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, 3, 2, 1, and exhale through your nose for 4 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Notice the calming effect?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do the same thing through the mouth. So big inhale through the mouth for 4 seconds. And we'll hold for 4 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And we'll have a large exhale, just a drop. Notice how your body falls forward. You're like, wow, I'm activated.
Right.
Every component of breathing has activation or deactivation. So a lot of it is connected to upregulation and downregulation.
Mm.
Why it's so profound and important that we breathe properly is because, again, vibration, the cellular vibration. We calm the brain, we take away the monkey mind, the chatter, because
Mm.
we have to focus on breathing, right?
Right.
When you have somebody in front of you, or when you observe and you see people are shallow breathers, what usually, and I'll have you practice this from now on. What usually happens? They're scared, they're being hurt, everything is sitting in the heart and the chest. Perhaps confidence is a little bit of a challenge. They're not the ones to come out or bring forth the ideas. They want to sit in their little, and I'm only here because I need to be, and I simply exist.
Mm.
Do you?
Right.
What happens when people are confident and you can tell, and they breathe and their voice is strong and they walk in the room, they engage the whole room, and people look at them but they don't quite know. It's not the looks, it's not the outfit, it's not the face, it's not what they're saying. You enter the room, you stand there in the middle, and you have everybody's attention.
Right.
Why? Because your heart chakra is open, your confidence is open, your shoulders are open, your rib cage is open, allowing your liver, your kidneys to stand the way they should, to filter left to right, to exchange ions. So breathing as we know it has really nothing to do with psychological component that we were taught, because everybody breathes. That's a psychological component. Why would I sign up with you when I can just look up, different breathing techniques and I'll do them? Well, then why are you breathing shallow? Right? You're 45, four decades in, and you're 45, and you're being very dismissive. Before I even approached you, you approached me. So it's that guarding of, I know everything, like the ego, right? Like I. And ego is not good or bad. We all need it, but it's the I. But who is the self? Who is your intuition? Who are all the other components that go way behind the I?
Right.
You have to show up, but how do you show up if you don't have energy? How do you show up if you don't have nutritional component? How do you show up if you didn't sleep properly? Right? You'll be lacking words, you'll be lacking movement, you'll be lacking purpose, you'll be lacking the lifestyle that you want, but you can't even articulate what it is that you thrive, what it is that drives you, what makes you happy. You'll be amazed how many clients or people just when I go out, people just talk to me. I just like to talk to people and I observe. They cannot articulate what makes them happy.
Right.
They don't know, they forgot. They cannot go back 10 years. They cannot go back to last week what happened.
Right.
They cannot. It's too much. There's just so much clutter. So when we breathe, we force our consciousness to focus on specific technique, and you let the body, somatic word, soma, meaning the body, do the rest. So sometimes when people have injuries like scars, they'll feel the heat, they'll feel the tingling, they'll feel the movement of like, wow, my shoulder wants to move, my neck wants to extend, I feel taller. Or sometimes they'll even come in and they'll just, no, I can. And so I'll go in and ask for permission. Well, can I just like hold your feet, right, to ground them? Can I hold your hand? Can I hold your cranial to help you? I'm here. I'll guide you, but you have to do the work. It's safe. Look, you're here still in this room, no matter what's happening, what you're seeing, because it might be trauma, it might be stuff that they forgot when they were children, because it has happened.
Right.
I have had clients in front of me where, at the end of the journey, they're like, I don't understand. I didn't drink anything. I know you didn't give me anything, but I had this like euphoric, how do I bottle this? Like, I feel so light. Like, tell me, please teach me, how do I bottle this? And then I've had clients, they came out and they're like, oh my God, what was that? That was so heavy. Because they go into wherever their body takes them, body to mind approach. Psychiatrists work when you have the articulation of the language. But even then, where does the trauma sit? In the tissue, stress, it sits in a tissue. We work out, it's positive stress, but it hurts. So we engage in negatively, right? Breathe into those parts. So I teach people to just really connect through the breath work and mitigate the stress responses, because it's the resonance, it's the communication, like with everything else. But you can't do that if you're constantly up here, because all your energy is up here. Then what's going to happen? You will not retain, you'll be hungry all the time, or you'll be eating all the time, because there's no connection of your stomach actually telling you, hey, you know what, I'm half full, we should stop now. Actually feel good before you overeat or before you forget to eat.
Right.
Because it's not about the foods, it's about the minerals, as you know.
Yeah. And I mean, people can't even remember what they ate last night for dinner, right? I mean, that it's that simple. So help us understand also. I mean, so this basic breathing technique that you taught us, right? So this can be done any time of the day, or only during when a person feels stressed, anxious,
Yeah.
afraid.
So the box technique is 4-4-4. So I like to do that. So depends. You can breathe through your nose ideally. So it's 4 seconds inhale, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds exhale, and 4 seconds hold. It's to calm the mind before sleep. Perhaps before the meeting, just to collect, your thoughts. Whenever we feel anxious, if you're outside at a grocery store in the car and you receive a phone call or somebody calls you and oh, I don't want to get that, but then it's on your mind. I should call that person. The guilt, right? Guilt, because we are programmed to give, 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 give. Then
Mm.
we feel guilty when we want to take our self recovery time when we want to nourish ourselves. So the 4-4 box breathing, it's really just to come to settle you so that you can reconnect here. And it's not complicated. You don't have to think about your inner peace and everything else, all the big words, because they're words, but people can't relate to them until they feel, right? Then we have other techniques like to activate different nervous systems. We have simply, inhale, exhale, but just really the depth matters. So if you're inhaling up here or into your abdomen, exhaling slow or dropping it over a certain period of time to activate the senses, to activate anything that's sitting that doesn't belong, or to just move energy. There's so many different breathing techniques where we can even do a humming technique, as yeah, you might know, where a lot of spiritual healers use because the bells, like anything that has to do with frequencies, chimes. So humming is very purifying. Why do we have, for example, water? We can put it through vortex systems to change the memory of the water because water has memory. It's all vibrational humming. So the one that we did is just to really box breathing, to keep you within your box, to settle you down, to relax you. So you can use it before sleep, meetings, anything where you feel like you're outside and you can't quite, it's really taking a long time to center yourself. I
Right.
always teach that one first because it's easy. 4-4-4. And I just say, if you forget, just remember 4-4-4. And
Yeah.
then people just remember what it is.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure our audience, will remember this. This is a very basic breathing technique which should help everyone, right? And so you mentioned sleep also a very important factor, right? And this breathing technique, because in today's world, again, I'm going back to the fast-paced thing because with gadgets, people are not getting enough sleep, right? Which is again harming their body and their mind, right? So
Yeah.
this breathing technique, so during, just before going to sleep, what should people do to achieve a good sleep, and what is a good sleep according to you?
So I will give you a long version again, the repetition, the power of the repetition.
Sure.
So having a morning routine, having your evening routine, okay? The power of the symptoms of trauma, the symptoms of repetition have long-term effects on your body remembering, oh, she's getting ready for sleep, right? And it knows that she's not going to go on the computer, she's not going to activate, she's not going to, oh, look, it's dark. I'm not engaging in 20 big conversations. I'm not opening my email. Oh, it's evening routine, right? We're not drinking water. We're hydrating before, brush your teeth, shower, get ready, brush your hair, whatever it is, Dry brushing has really calming effect on the body. And again, the environment. So let's go back to electronics, electromagnetic field. People have routers, Wi-Fi set up right next to their heads, right? This is constant pulsing. What we have, there's certain ways, and they're companies, and again, I train in this as well because I was curious how we can block it. There's certain pins that you can get, an equipment in your house. You can put all your equipment in one room, and you can block it off so you can still get the signal, but at night shut it off.
Right.
And I know when you're in a big building and there's 20 floors, you're in this little matchbox and everybody has, but it still makes a difference. Ground yourself. Shut off your phone. It's not enough that you put it on silent. It's not enough that you put it in the kitchen, you put it outside. It's still connecting and sending the signal to the tower, right? Smartwatches. I've seen people like now they're coming out with earrings, smart earrings. That's too close to the brain. So you put two Bluetooth devices. You're frying your brain the whole day, right? So people go exercise and they blast music, and you have this, yeah, physically you feel better, but what are you doing with electronics? Okay, I'm not saying don't listen to the music, but just figure out a way so that you can look at all these different components. And what I'm working on now is creating a model so that, you know, in your house or in your, just these basics little, you know, 5 points,
Right.
just see where they are. Go in your house and just see where they are. You'll be amazed, from smart fridges to microwaves. We
Right.
spend triple on organic food, right? And then you microwave it.
Right. Right.
How do you microwave it? So if you go into history, how microwave was designed, why do you microwave it?
Right.
Right? So evening routine is very important. The box breathing can definitely help. But just lay down on your bed, allow yourself.
Mm.
It's very important that you're in a bed like 9:30, 10 at the latest, because that's when our clock starts.
Mm.
So if you miss that, then the 1 o'clock, the liver, anything that helps after is not going to help the process because you haven't grounded yourself. Just lay down, put your hands, just let them fall and feel your body, and you'll feel the tension and you'll feel, wow, like I don't want to move. Do
Right.
that. Try with 3 nights in a row. The power of three. In the morning, first thing when you get up, room temperature water, because stomach, the organ,
Mm.
that's when it actually retains the water. Not during the day, 2, 3 liters of drinking, because you're doing everything else during the day. In the morning, when you wake up,
Mm.
your stomach just wants to flush acids.
Right.
Then brush your teeth. Before you even put your feet on the floor, when you get up, take the water, drink, then put your feet on the floor. Then ground yourself, ground everything else. So
Mm.
the same thing, all the morning, evening routines, but what we can shut off, you know, don't touch your cell phone until you have, if you have breakfast. I don't eat till noon. So it's usually noon to noon, because in the morning, breakfast was, again, man-made, created, right?
Mm.
We're not meant to eat that early in the morning, unless you're a farmer, and even farmers, they don't. They
Right.
come back around 10, and then they come for lunch, they have siesta, then they go out and they work. And
Right.
they live the longest. So
Absolutely.
the power of the evening routine, and just the power of, again, calming your mind, you have to. Because if
Right.
it's constantly running, our expiry date will come a lot sooner. And
Right.
it won't be peaceful,
Mm.
because it's just too much.
Right. Yeah. When too much distractions, too much stress, right? Yeah. I mean, and also just going back to the frequency thing that you mentioned a few times in your in our discussion. So you mentioned about electromagnetic frequency, and then there is also a frequency which heals people through, say, for example, Tibetan bowls, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
what's the difference? Because those two are frequencies. So what's the difference?
yes, yes. So we have low and high frequencies. So for example, Tesla healing, right? So he used copper coil.
Mm.
And a lot of this information, it's online, but people don't know how to look for it. So I
Mm.
work with Tesla coil. I work with Tesla beds, Tesla rods. Have certain components, you know, we can create for people to wear, just to neutralize the higher frequency and the lower frequency, because we're supposed to exist within this one realm of, you know, Schumann resonance.
Mm.
In our 9D experiences, when we conduct 9D jerseys, we have 9 layers of sound, and
Mm.
Schumann resonance is one of them. Solfeggio frequencies is another one. They're all embedded frequencies, like most of them used to be in music, especially classical music, because they're octaves. It's
Mm.
like color therapy. They're all frequencies.
Mm.
Today, because they're too sharp or too low, we can't connect to them. But
Mm.
what's happening, they're still coming through. So they're getting stuck to the cells.
Right.
So the Tesla frequency, we work within, depending, do we activate the cell? Do we deactivate, not deactivate, slow down the cell, or do we purge?
Mm.
And then there is a rehabilitation, rebuilding of the environment, so the tissue.
Mm.
So there's specific frequencies that we can send to the body. And again, there are playlists on YouTube. It's just the information. We need to educate,
Right.
right? If your thyroid is low, there's a frequency for that.
Mm.
Put it on your laptop, put it on your download it offline.
Mm.
Have it play in your house throughout the day if you work from home, or
Mm.
make it part of your playlist. Just have it, because your brain tunes into everything. You think it doesn't. My brain knows now how many cars drove by, who's walking outside,
Mm.
what kind of, you know, movement leaves have. It's all downloading all the time. So why not give it something to download that can actually work in our favor?
Mm.
So we can sort the frequencies that we need through proper assessments, or just ask the person what's wrong. They'll tell you what the solution is before you even have to, do any hard work. No, I don't sleep. I know I don't sleep, but I have to do this. There's your problem. Fix your sleep, right? I know I love jogging, but my joints, my right joint has been an issue since I was 15. Speed walk and fix your and support your right joint. When you listen, you can actually give them solutions just by repeating, because they don't hear what they're saying. And we do the same thing, because when you're in shock or stress, you're not present. You're in fight or flight mode, and there's only certain responses we can articulate during this time, right? Because you're heightened. So what do we do when we're heightened? You're stressed, your shoulders go up, you're up here. So what's digestion doing? Hello, I'm hungry, like I can't. You be quiet, right? Like everything is about being quiet and not giving enough attention when we're heightened up here. So we need to calm the mind.
Right.
Definitely always needing calming mind.
Right. So, so just again asking you on the frequencies, right? So there are various levels of these frequencies, right? We'll not go deep into these levels, but what it does to our body, I mean, from a soma or cell perspective, how do these frequencies behave? Do they align our cells in a direction? I mean, what happens?
Yes, so they align the cells, the cellular vitality, they align them with enough movement to activate the mechanical component of what they need to do.
Okay.
Each cell has a sample of each organ behavior. Each cell is identical with what we have in our body. Now, in each specific beat to the drum, I say, or movement, and that's the frequency. So if we send, let's say, 8 hertz to ground ourselves, it will ground down the middle. It'll vibrate, but it'll make us feel calm. And I say make us because when cells are stuck together, they're trying, but then over time we end up fatigued.
Right.
If it's on higher frequency, again, these are not frequency like 5G.
Right.
These are 10 hertz, 12 hertz, 200 hertz.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. There's a big difference when we walk in an office and you have your personal cell phone, you have your business cell phone, you have a booster over your head, then you walk in a hallway. We're being bombarded by the numbers that we can't. We just wish. It's like a shadow that just comes down. It pours like rain and it sticks. And the body cannot do anything because it's too much. It doesn't recognize that the weight of that frequency.
Right.
So we work with the lower ones. We work with the ones between 8 hertz to, it depends, like into hundreds of hertz, but never over 1,000, rarely. If we do it short pulsing to activate, like I said, bone healing, scar, anything that has to do with rebuilding. For example, oxygen therapy, right? Like, so we can use that for teeth. When we have root canals or anything like this, we'll pulse specific frequency to stimulate the blood flow, the growth, the root. So these are specific healing frequency that I was talking about, and it all goes back to Tesla, Nikola Tesla coil. What he discovered, just sitting in this field where he would pulse specific vibrations, and you allow your body to take what it needs. Okay. Right? But you have to be hydrated. You have to be hydrated properly. And again, all in the stomach. Why? Because when digestion is activated, it's digesting. So everything else is secondary. So a big glass of water and you sit there, you pulse. And there's so many devices. Because a lot of them are replicated and then they have to be connected to Wi-Fi, which right away it's like, well, why am I connecting it to Wi-Fi? They're supposed to be pulsing. We just have to be smart in terms of technologies and what to buy. Basics are the best. Just basic.
Right. Right. And I mean, you mentioned water there, so it was a perfect segue to my next question. So we are dealing in the basic of body and mind here, right? So you explained us about the benefits of drinking water early in the morning, right? So tell me one thing. I mean, I had read somewhere that before you go to sleep, if you bathe in hot water, right, for a few minutes, it helps you to sleep better. Is that something true?
But yes and no. So I'm a huge fan of cold baths. So
Mm,
we do ice baths, and you can start with warm water. It just really depends on what is creating disturbance in your sleep,
mm,
right? Is it falling asleep? Is it staying asleep? Is it the thoughts? Again, the body wants to rest at night because when it's dark, our body pressure goes up. So what happens? We want to rest, we're going to sleep.
mm,
The warmth, when you're in a cold climate, let's say like I live in Canada right now.
mm,
In the winter, it's all about warm soups. It's all about the warmth. It's all about warming up the body and using the spices.
mm,
Okay. When we talk about the water to purify, you can go from warm component, but then work your way down to cold towards the end of the shower. Why? Because when we have cool water or cold water, it flushes all the acids from the joints. It
mm,
creates a shock. But again, this is where breathwork comes in. It creates a shock to stimulate, push and pull, so
mm,
that all the circulation goes up and down, our skin gets rough, but then you come out and you're like you shake, right?
mm.
Again, there's what the animals do, and there's the dancing, there's the tribal moment. It will help you sleep from the point of the nervous system. It
Right.
will calm you, the warmth when you come into ladder to clean and everything else. And then as you stand there, activate whatever, even if it's just a
Mm,
symbolic or sequential breath work that you can keep throughout your cooler shower, right? So as you're turning, you maintain that breathing. And you always start from the top of your head because your crown chakra, all the information comes here. Even
right.
if it's for 10 seconds, you will see how your body, by the time the water hits your feet, it will not be cold, it will actually be warmer because you will flush all this heat, all this acid, and then slowly you can go back to warmer water until you get used to the cooler later on.
Mm,
There's huge benefits. Another one, if I may add, salt, sea salt. Add sea salt to your body wash because salt purifies the body as a scrub.
mm,
Just a little bit. You cleanse and then use your sea salt and just cleanse and work outward. Always out. Never go in circle because you're not activating lymph. You're
mm,
purifying, you're cleansing. The same thing here, the same thing for the rest of your body. A
right.
little time you can, have in your shower to purify, but they'll help you sleep and they'll help you regulate your nervous system.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, that's, I mean, people would love to, I mean, have this basic knowledge because today, again, I mean, with so much of stress and uh, immediate stuff going on, right? People don't focus on all these things. So, yeah, this is very helpful. So, Ina, now let's talk about Healiness, right? So, with your all these skills, you have co-founded Healiness. So, what's the vision, mission behind that? And I mean, why did you found? I mean, basically, find
So
make
the,
it.
the creation of healiness came, it's healiness, it's healing and Innes. Innes means pure, chaste, holy, which
Mm,
I found out later on too.
mm,
Um, it just takes me back to simplicity. The healiness, JC comes from a background where a lot of it is analytical, a lot of it is acquiring businesses, connecting companies,
mm,
connecting sources, and then he facilitates. He's really good at talking to people and really creating connections where he solves problems,
right.
right? When we got together, he was really fascinated by what I do. Still doesn't understand it. It's a little bit of a difference because he's, one side of the brain and the other, but he
Mm,
sees the difference in him when he stays with the protocol.
mm,
So the business component of the healiness has a lot to do with communication, the outside wheels that need to be turning to deliver.
mm,
So the inner component has a lot to do with the transformations internally, but
mm,
then how do we put this on paper and communicate so that we can combine the two realms and work together, but then still work independently, but have this safe place of transformation where people can tap into the retreats, have access to me, have access to him, but also creating foundation for the future generations where this information will be written. I'm writing 2 books, which should be published sometime next year. So to transfer this information from a hub point of view. Not so much, I don't like the word corporation, but from the business sense, where it's easy enough that it's accessible, but it can be diversified and complicated enough so that we can push it out to masses and really create, foundation where we can go into areas that are rural, where we can have enough funding and just deploy this. And the information that we have at our fingertips and that's coming, like you said, just here talking, just give me the mic. I always say, just give me the mic. I have so much to say, but it's education. You don't want to add to anybody's schedule. So when we go to, third world countries or, Africa, anyways, even here, Canada, there's no middle class, right? Fast forward 10 years from now, what do you think you will see here? The world is going in that direction. So the basics of the information that we're trying to create here to make accessible has a lot to do with healiness, because it's healing in the purest form and is delivery of the information that hopefully we won't need the internet for in the future, because it looks like we won't need it for much longer, because everything is just telepathically. Where the communication can be delivered, but we can also create hubs all over the world where people can go and have access to the basic means of, how do I create my peace? Where can you go for food? Where can you go for transformation? Where can you go to learn? Where can you go to find your little niche and just deploy that? You don't have to learn everything. Even massage therapists, right? Like there's many people, they just travel and they do this. But can you imagine if you really specialize in the lymphatic system? The lymphatic system is huge when it comes to the physical body health. But it's to the energy. These little tiny bits and pieces where healiness, needs to go, but also creating hubs all over the world in terms of retreats and offices where we want to teach practitioners, teach people, teach our future generations how to take care of themselves so that they can take care of their family.
Right. Yeah, and I also I've read somewhere. I mean, I was going through your bio and all the work, right? So you also combine Eastern and Western concepts and medicines in this healiness organization and programs, right? So can you give us a brief about that? How to do that?
Yes. So coming from the Western background, we go back to herbs and just natural way of healing, right? It takes longer. And it will take even longer if we continue living like this. The Eastern approach is it's a quick fix, right? So somebody comes to you with an infection. Sometimes I know certain biotic will work and it'll be a lot quicker, but we need to really protect certain organs and the rest, right? We'll combine the two. Technology, also looking at how do we combine like frequency healing when people don't understand with practitioners and the round tables of specialists, which I have been privileged to be part of, where they're open and they said, listen, we tried everything, nothing works, we'll try your approach. Round table of specialists, and they all specialize in one little part of the physical existence. What they're missing is the collective. What they're missing is one round table of a leader where you can take all of this and now look at the body. Nobody else does that. The Eastern medicine hasn't taught us that. The Eastern medicine taught us to find a disease. If I am mentally overworked, what disease do I have? Right? So they'll try to fix it with a pill, they'll try to numb it, because that's the Eastern approach. Because you have a headache, take a pill. You're stressed, go for it, get rid of your stress. But what is my stress? Everything is stress, right? So we combine the information of the two because we have access to imaging, we have technology to really fast track and to compartmentalize how we can sort our approaches, where we can assess properly, where we can create a plan together, but then also treat in the long term. It doesn't have to be a disease, it's a lifestyle. We believe we keep coming back to clear karmic clashes, to clear, right? And every time you come back, you get another chance to fill up that cup of light, and until it's full, you're not done. And many people are confused, why am I here? Why is it still happening to me? I am attracting bad relationships, bad people, because you're vibrating at that stage. there's your Western observation. He or she keeps attracting all these different people. She's constantly complaining, constantly in the negative mindset, constantly now, nibbling on, different foods without having a proper routine, constantly in the shock mode. So which one? Sympathetic nervous system constantly firing, right? She never has that calmness. She doesn't have that peace. So how do you create that balance so that both of them are working? You
Right.
need both. You need ancient, you need food, herbs, proper food, you need the energy, you need you need a proper round table with all the experts.
Right.
You need
Right.
a proper round table with all. So over the years, I've tried to look at the aspects. Okay, but I'm missing this. How do I get to this? And then I figured, hey, listen, if people knock on the door and they don't have any other solution, let me try working with this as well. Because before I would say, oh, I don't know, like if these people sent you home and they're in the white coats, right? Like I have a white coat too, like, but these are specialists. When you're knocking on my door, okay, you know what? I'm going to start looking at this. And it was a calling. And so I started combining different modalities, Eastern, Western, Ayurvedic, sacred geometry, quantum therapy. There's so many different ones. Family constellation, intergenerational trauma, right?
Right.
What parents have. I don't ask them, well, does anybody in the family have diabetes? Who am I to single point to specific condition? Tell me about your parents. Tell me about your grandparents. Go back to the source. And 85%, it's fixable because it wasn't even yours. And at some point in your life, it got activated because it wasn't cleansed before. So we give it a voice, we give it energy and movement, and we transfer that energy into something else that works here.
Okay. Right. Right. So, and also just to understand the programs in Healiness, right? So, is it tailor made for individuals and their specific needs, or there is a group program also? How the programs are structured in this?
So we have both. So we have general programs where it's just about transformation, and transformation can be couples therapy, can be what is your need? Is it deleting, whatever it is you think you are now? Deleting, and I say deleting because deleting is a big word in the computer industry, right? Is it adjustment? Couples retreat to bring them closer together or to create that intimacy where they can find the words to communicate, but they are trusted and they've been together for 20 years and all of a sudden they're sitting there holding hands and they're just numb, right?
Right.
One-on-one is more tailored to whatever that person needs, but also looking into the future aspect of the idea of the version they want to become. So very close approach on clearing their mind, body, and soul, the spirit, to get to move. And it gives them an idea of who you were, and then they see if they can synchronize that, or perhaps they have ideas of they want to manifest, but they never had enough courage to do because of fear, guilt, anger, everything else that they have to deal with. Children. So lately we've been also approaching children because just to create peace in the sense of this buzzing electronic world. And most of them here are left, in daycares and the life where society is raising your child. So we're coming in, just clearing the subliminal messages, playing specific octaves, music, going back to classics. When I go in, like, you really see the atmosphere, what it is. If they're very like technologically inclined and they're this, so what do you want to do? You want to keep that creativity going, but add another creativity. Maybe it's music, maybe it's martial arts, like plant the seeds, right? Keep it going. So they're not looking at, oh, I'm being sick, so I need therapy. I'm sitting here doing breathwork. It's about just allowing different part of your mind to develop because they're developing up until 12.
Right.
Whatever doesn't develop doesn't develop. So we just, through the synchronization of, again, frequencies, we activate different parts of the brain and we cleanse whatever is programmed, pre-programmed sitting there, regardless of the age group or the setting.
Right.
Always go back to the same basics.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, and I certainly look forward to attending one of your programs. Right? I mean, it will be an eye-opening eye-opening journey for me. And this podcast, I'm sure it has. I mean, it was incredible, and I had the great privilege of having you and teach us these basic concepts. Right? So I take away a lot from this podcast. Right? And we will for sure be diving into many such interesting topics in our future podcast with you, and I hope to have you again. Teach us all these techniques and guide us through this. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for providing a safe space, and I look forward to um, testing also your Nibble foods for the clients and everybody else to learning more about you.
Sure. Thank you so much for that. And thanks to all our viewers and audience for watching this podcast. I hope you have learned a lot as I have, right? So do not forget to like, share, and comment, right? And also please subscribe to our channel and support us so that we can bring more such interesting topics and guests like Ina and her views on podcast. Week after week. So thank you so much. Thank you, Ina. Have a nice day.